Why the next decade demands a new governance layer between AI and humanity. This is not a technology episode. It's a reality episode. A moment in time where the world is accelerating faster than our collective capacity to understand what we're actually building and what it will demand from us. For most of my life, I believed that intelligence itself keeps us safe. That insight, pattern detection, expertise, and strategy would naturally lead to safety. But in the last months, something became painfully, unmistakably clear. Intelligence does not guarantee safety, and AI cannot be made safe from within AI. We are facing a global system transition, not a new product cycle, not a new tool set, not a new hype wave, a shift in the underlying operating system of society. And every new operating system creates a power vacuum. AI is filling that vacuum faster than our institutions can even understand it exists, which means we are not dealing with a technological challenge. We are dealing with a governance challenge. And governance always comes after the damage, unless someone builds the meta layer before the system outruns us. For the last 8 years, I worked on something that, at the time, looked like a niche psychological model, a profiling architecture, a behavioral system, a model that I tested in industries that weren't ready for it, a model that felt too early, too unusual, too complex, too unfamiliar for traditional markets. What I didn't know then was this. Those 8 years were the groundwork for something much larger than behavioral targeting or personalization. They were the foundation for a governance layer that sits between AI and society. A layer that does not try to make AI ethical from the inside, but stabilizes the human side of the equation. The side that decides, interprets, validates, and governs. For a long time, I thought I had failed. Attracting customers was slow, markets were unprepared, Switzerland moved cautiously, and I was building something 20 years ahead of where organizations actually were. But then the landscape shifted, and in the last 6 months, the world finally entered the timeline I had been sensing for years. Suddenly, the conversations changed. Regulators began to step back. Big tech positioned AI as a race. Safety researchers started admitting they no longer know how to guarantee alignment, and society began to understand that hoping for safety is not a strategy. This didn't happen last year. It didn't happen the year before. It is happening now. Right now. And that is why Exidion exists. Exidion is not just another AI framework, and it's not a deterministic rule set like the new cognitive AI alternatives emerging on the market. Deterministic systems are predictable, but that does not make them cognitive. Cognition requires the integration of perception, meaning, development, maturity, bias awareness, and identity. It requires modeling the way humans interpret reality, not just how they execute instructions. Deterministic systems do not do that. They execute rules. They do not understand development, conflict, paradox, context, moral tension, or psychological evolution. They do not govern anything. This is why we are building a meta-regulative governance layer, a layer that models human agency, human development, and human maturity, so that any AI system operating at scale has a consistent reference point outside of the machine itself. AI cannot be responsible for governing AI. Governance cannot emerge from the same system it is meant to regulate. This is the fundamental error of the current AI race. Expecting that the creators of the system will voluntarily slow down, self-regulate, or sacrifice speed for safety. They cannot, and they will not. Governance must come from the outside, from a layer deliberately designed to remain independent, deterministic enough to be auditable, flexible enough to adapt to cultural, ethical, and psychological complexity, and robust enough to not crumble under political or commercial pressure. The work we are doing at Exidion builds exactly that layer, a structure that has 3 components. First, a developmental architecture based on validated psychological maturity frameworks that maps how humans perceive risk, responsibility, complexity, and meaning. Because the way humans make decisions is not static. It evolves. And any governance layer that ignores human development will fail the moment reality becomes more complex than the rule book. Second, a cognitive modeling system that integrates the aspects model, a psychometric framework I spent 8 years testing, validating, and refining, not to personalize ads or services, but to understand the motivational and behavioral patterns that drive interpretation, identity, conflict, and cooperation. Because governance is not about controlling systems, it's about understanding the humans who must make sense of them. And third, a meta-regulative logic that sits as an independent layer between AI systems and the people they affect. Not to interfere with computation, but to create an interpretive boundary, a living structure that prevents systems from drifting into behavior that outpaces societal comprehension. This is not theoretical work. It is existential work. Because within 2 to 3 years, and this is the window experts across the world are naming, AI will reach a level of autonomy and capability that becomes irreversible. We cannot patch governance onto something that is already out of reach. We must build the governance layer before superintelligence arrives, not after, not during, before. This is the last moment in history where this is still possible. Exidion is not a product, and it is not a startup. It is not a tool for companies to optimize marketing or operations. It is an infrastructure project, a public good architecture, a system designed to protect society at the point where AI becomes too fast, too complex, and too unpredictable for institutional reaction times. The world doesn't need more AI tools. The world needs a cognitive boundary. A layer that understands how humans develop, decide, distort, and contextualize. A layer that keeps civilization anchored when systems become smarter than the structures meant to regulate them. A layer that ensures humanity does not disappear into a mathematical equation it was never designed to fit into. I know this work is urgent. I know it is uncomfortable. I know it demands clarity and responsibility from people who often prefer comfort and delay, but the timeline will not wait. And governance cannot appear after the fact. Exidion exists because someone had to build the foundation before the world realized it was necessary. And that foundation is here. It was never wasted work. It was never failures. It was pre-development for the decade that is now beginning. This is Exidion, a governance architecture for an era where intelligence alone is no longer enough, a boundary layer for the future of society, and our contribution to ensuring that the systems we create remain anchored in the humanity they are meant to serve.